The Galactic Council had made their decision. Aiden Cross, a human child of merely 8 standard years, would be the sacrifice. The assembled species, the crystalline Va'azir, the tentacled Morphine, the insectoid Klattar, all watched through reinforced viewing ports as the guards dragged the small human toward the containment chamber. "This will prove humans are as weak as their appearance," suggests, hissed Supreme Arbiter Kixtal, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "When Valeth devours the child, Earth will withdraw its absurd petition for council membership." Humanity had become a problem. In just 2 decades since first contact, humans had spread across a dozen systems, their adaptability and stubbornness disrupting millennia-old power structures. The elder species needed to remind these newcomers of their place in the cosmic hierarchy. What better way than to demonstrate their fragility? Valeth was perfection incarnate, a creature bred by the Va'azir over 10,000 generations. 30 meters of scales harder than starship hulls, claws that could slice through reinforced titanium, and a furnace breath that melted stone. She had consumed champions from 100 worlds. No being had ever survived an encounter with her. Aiden stumbled as the guards released him into the chamber. The massive arena had been carved from solid bedrock deep beneath the council station. Above, thousands of aliens crowded the viewing galleries, eager to witness humanity's humiliation. The child looked impossibly small as he picked himself up from the ground. He wore simple clothes, a faded shirt with some earth animal printed on it, worn trousers and scuffed shoes. His dark hair was messy, his face smudged with dirt from the floor. He couldn't even reach 2 meters tall. Then Valeth emerged from her cave. The dragon's scales shimmered like molten gold and crimson in the harsh arena lights. Each footfall shook the ground. Her eyes, ancient and cold as the void between stars, fixed upon the tiny figure. She had consumed the brave and the terrified, the strong and the cunning. All had tasted the same in the end. But this creature, this small, soft thing, did something unexpected. Aiden Cross sat down. He simply sat on the ground, crossed his legs, and looked up at the approaching monster with curious brown eyes. No screaming, no running, no desperate fighting. He just waited. Valeth paused. In 10 centuries of existence, nothing had ever done this. Prey ran, prey fought, prey begged. They didn't sit calmly and observe. "What is wrong with the human?" someone whispered in the galleries. "Has fear broken its mind?" Kixtal leaned forward, antennae quivering with confusion. The dragon lowered her massive head, bringing one eye the size of a hover vehicle to examine the child. Aiden didn't flinch. Instead, he slowly extended one small hand, palm up, in a gesture that somehow transcended species. "Hello," Aiden said softly. "You're beautiful." The galleries erupted in confused chittering and clicking. Beautiful? The killing machine was beautiful? Valeth could have incinerated the child with a breath. Should have. That was her purpose, her entire existence. But something in those small primate eyes held no fear, only wonder, only appreciation. The dragon sniffed the extended hand. The child's pulse was steady, his scent free from the acrid tang of terror that usually saturated her prey. Instead, she detected something else: curiosity, loneliness, and beneath it all, a strange kind of kinship. Aiden spoke again, his voice carrying in the stunned silence. "They say you've never lost a fight. That must be lonely, always being the strongest, never having anyone who understands." How could this creature know? Valeth had been alone since her creation. A weapon without peers, a predator without equals. The Vizier had made her too perfect, too powerful to connect with anything living. "I'm lonely too," Aiden continued, lowering his hand but not his gaze. "Humans always are, even when we're with others. I think maybe you and I aren't so different." The dragon released a long breath, not fire, just air that ruffled the child's hair. Then she did something that made the entire Galactic Council gasp in unison. Valeth laid down. She curled her massive body around the small human, forming a protective barrier of scales and muscle. Her tail wrapped gently around Aiden, who reached out and placed both hands against her snout. "It's okay," the child whispered. "You don't have to be alone anymore." In the viewing galleries, chaos erupted. Species that had remained silent for centuries were shouting. The Vazir delegation stood frozen in crystalline horror. Their perfect weapon, their ultimate predator, had just chosen companionship over carnage. But Kixtal saw something else. something that chilled his exoskeleton. He saw Valeth's eyes, and for the first time in recorded history they held emotion. Not hunger, not rage. Something far more dangerous, loyalty. Impossible, he breathed. No species should be able to— But they did, interrupted Ambassador Chen, the human representative speaking for the first time since the trial began. She stood with quiet dignity, her aged face showing neither triumph nor anger. That's what you never understood about us. We don't survive through strength or speed or natural weapons. We survive through connection. We make families out of strangers, companions out of predators, and friends out of enemies. In the arena, Aiden had fallen asleep against Valeth's warm scales, one hand still resting on her snout. The dragon's eyes never left the child, and when a guard approached the chamber door, she released a warning growl that cracked the reinforced glass of the viewing ports. The message was clear. Anyone who threatened the small human would learn why Valeth had never lost a battle. The Galactic Council had tried to prove humanity's weakness. Instead, they discovered humanity's most terrifying strength. Their infinite capacity to find connection in the most impossible places, to turn enemies into allies, and to make even the fiercest dragon choose love over violence. Earth's petition for council membership was approved the next day, unanimously. And somewhere in the archives, a new regulation was quietly added. Never underestimate a species that can befriend anything.